Hello, everyone. Uh, this is my attempt number 2 for the day of a live stream of sorts. Earlier, I forgot to press the go live button. I double checked everything. I had to make sure that all my stuff was okay over here, all my streaming stuff was okay over here, and I was good to go. And I forgot to press the one go live button for about 45 minutes. So I was live for about 15 minutes, but didn't get to talk, I guess, as much as I wanted to about my stuff and go as in depth and answer as many questions. So instead, I'm live here now, and hopefully, you know, have some people in here, ask some questions, answer some questions for some people, go through some of my work. If some people wanted to take a look at anything in specific and wanted to know more about it. Um, and Yeah. Um, so if anybody wants to ask any questions or anything, let me know. Uh, yeah. Um, by all means, ask away. I can do some stuff. I last stream on Tuesday, I think it was. I went over the dinosaur stuff and the portrait stuff. And earlier I went through from product photography all the way through illustration, landscape, and page layout. But then once I hit page layout, I realized I wasn't streaming, so I restarted the stream and tried to quickly go through as much things as possible. So I I'm probably gonna go over some of that stuff again and answer some questions if any come up, and hopefully go through the videography and logo design stuff. There's not too much in the videography stuff, even though I consider that to be some of my better work, the videography stuff. So, hi, Vincent. Thank you for joining me. Um, yeah. So this was some videography stuff that I've done, um, just for uh, in class projects and such. This was one of my most recent little short films I did, just for a quick motion project. Um, this was a little stop motion that we did for Motion 2, I think, or Motion 1. And this is a cinematograph, and I had a blast doing it. And it's not as good as I had initially wanted it to be, but I think knowing what I know about After Effects now, I could definitely go back and redo this or do a similar thing, and and get it a lot better than I did here. But I still think it turned out pretty well. So those are some things I'm going to go into as well. Um, let's see. Alrighty. I'll take a look at my logo design stuff, I guess, as well for now, while I wait for people to join in and come on in and ask some questions. Uh, there's only a couple things here, some old stuff and some pretty new stuff as well. Um, but because this is so simple, a lot of simple things, and it's gonna be quick and easy to go through. Uh, and um, so this was a one I did for Ray for his for a hyperspectral unit project for him. Uh, we had 3 cameras, and we were trying to come up with names for the 3 cameras, And these are what was it? Sorry, I'll just pull it up over here. Yes, Thea. I'm pretty sure. Yes. So Thea, one of the name ideas that I came up with that kind of got that was thought about was Thea, because Thea is the Greek god of sight. So I was thinking about that, and in doing so, thought about how Thea had 3 children. So we realized that the hyperspectral unit is broken up into 3 separate cameras, three different units. So although the name didn't get picked as a ending name, it did kind of name the cameras. So the 3 cameras that the Prospector brand used are the 3 children of Thea: Helios, Selene, and Eos, which I think one is the sun, one is the moon, and one is something else. Yeah, Helios is the moon, or the sun. Selene is the moon, and Eos is the aurora, or the dawn, I guess. Oh no, Roman name Aurora, goddess of the dawn. Yeah, so it's the sun, the moon, and dawn. No, this is for a course, Vince. This is what we did a bunch of different courses on illustration and image manipulation and uh, uh, Photoshop tools and a bunch of different things. So yeah, I took this is all for a course. This is one of my most recent works, and this was just done on Illustrator. You see, most of my stuff is done on Illustrator because I like using Illustrator better than Photoshop. But it's not that I don't know how to use Photoshop. I do, but it's just I prefer I don't know. Working with pixels is always not complicated. If anything, it's quite a lot simpler than working with vectors. But I think the freedom of working with vectors instead of working with pixels is what draws me to Illustrator, because you can take an image in Illustrator and make it as big and as small as you want, and it doesn't change how it looks. Well, not really an image, but you can take a design. This is a logo for my own company, for the Fossil Focus brand, which is my brand for the dinosaur photography that I do. I was using an old one that I made at the beginning, and I wasn't feeling it really well, so I kind of changed it up here and there and tried to come up with different designs for it, and nothing really seemed to work. And then I came up with this, and it's based loosely off of I found this photography logo on Google Images, actually, which is a similar style with the focus marks in the circle, but I think it had like deer inside of it. I was trying for a really long time to get that aperture effect into a logo, but I think I kind of yeah, here it is. This is the logo. Yeah, it has deer and a mountain inside of it. I was trying for a while to get the aperture symbol to be somewhere in my logo, because I was a big fan of that. But it didn't really work out well. It didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to. So when I came across that, I was like, that's actually really nice. It's a good way to illustrate both dinosaurs and photography in one image, which is why I liked that design. So I was able to just take the basic photography shape and put this little dinosaur guy inside, uh, which is just a really simplified skeleton, which is like kind of based off of using the geometric shapes, kind of just squares and circles, or sorry, rectangles and circles, because that's what is all around the outside. So I wanted to use as many squares or rectangles as possible. This was a brand project that I did, and it is something that I worked on for a project in school, and it's eventually become a kind of YouTube channel, hopefully, and this is it's a brand for a cryptid hunter, sort of kind of what's his name, Coyote Peterson style, but instead of hunting, trying to track down real creatures, trying to track down like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and stuff. And just thought it'd be a little fun project to pass the time for me. So I kind of used that example as a train of thought towards this logo design. I like the little offset line art, and in the actual image, I can't really zoom up much more than that, but the color is a lot blockier than the line art. The line art is a lot more detailing. So it's thanks, Vince. Glad you like. Yeah, I liked how the line art is like the complicated kind of like wavy pattern. If you look at the colored, it's more just big blocks of color, and that could be used in circle as well. And then this, I decided to put the name, put the Vince, I'll talk to you about all this after, actually, because I want to chat with you about it. I was kind of wanting to do like a creepy moonlit night, so I wanted to keep the red coloring from the original, and instead of keeping this exact logo, I kind of grayscaled it to look a little bit more like the moon, and then put that little glow, so it's like the moon is glowing in the nighttime and silhouetting the trees, and got the name and the little tagline there in the logo, or in the banner, I mean. This is an old piece of work that I did, very, very old, but I thought I'd put it in. This was a work I did, I think, in Photoshop quite a while ago, and it's basically using the Doritos logo and the Mountain Dew logo as my own gaming logo, I guess, for my channel, Tropical Cheddar Games, which I haven't used in so long now, but it's still my screen name in most things. It's Tropical Cheddar. So I thought it was something to add to show my growth. I definitely know how to do this a lot better and know how to do it a lot faster and with a lot more confidence now than I did back then. But I still think it holds up a bit. So I'm pretty proud about how that turned out. I guess I'll work backwards. I'm going to skip videography for now. I'm going to go back into page layout because I want to try to go in a bit more detail about these than I had time to do earlier, because I didn't have that much time earlier. So I'm going to go into a bit more detail about these. So I'm gonna work backwards because this is the one I had like 3 seconds to talk about because I had to head out. But this was a piece I did for school I need to re-export it because it's exported at a really low quality, so I want to re-export it a bit higher. But this was we had to do a timeline, an artistic timeline. So I decided to take my love for space movies and kind of put it into a timeline. And I started with 3. I knew I wanted 3, which were Trip to the Moon, because it is like the basis of all sci-fi cinema. It's the first like ever space/sci-fi movie. Then you know, the probably most famous sci-fi movie ever made, which was 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I know I wanted that one in there, which is why, it's so big, because I wanted it to be key. And one of my favorite movies of the past few years, Interstellar. And obviously it's a great movie and a great example of a good space movie because it's been critically acclaimed all over the world. So I started with those 3 as my baseline, and then kind of filled in everything else around it. And a lot of them were easy because a couple of them were easy because there was only one big movie of that decade, right? Some of them were hard because there was no big movies of that decade, and others were hard because there was too many big movies of that decade. So when going through them, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, that one was easy because that's basically the only movie that you could consider a space movie, or like a sci-fi movie, I guess, that came out in that decade. Same thing with Metropolis, and then you go here, which came hard because there's not much stuff like big movies that came out that decade. Even Metropolis, some would consider not a huge space or sci-fi movie, but I would. And when I was in the 1920s, when I saw Metropolis, I knew it right away. Cosmic Voyage isn't even a originally American film. It's a Russian film. But it is very influential. Wow, voice crack. It's very influential in when it came to space movies. 1940s was the same. These 2 were the hardest to find something good for, but Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe is kind of a little bit of a fun one, I guess. So I thought I might toss it in. 1950s, the original The Day the Earth Stood Still came out in the 1950s. Thank you, Emma. Call me. Even though I screwed it up earlier. I use both, Vince. A lot of times I'll take inspiration from things. And so a lot of times I'll go off of images. I'll take a bunch of different images and I'll take pieces that I like and kind of piecemeal things together. And then from there, fill in all the gaps with freehanding is what I do a lot of. But a lot of my Photoshop techniques are, like I said, piecemealing, and I think the best word to say is kit bashing. I like to kit bash a lot of artwork. So, oh yeah, that chair, Alana just got it in like 2 days ago. I'll send you a picture of her whole setup after, because it's all that color and it's all flashing blue and pink, and it's really pretty. Because she just built her own PC, so that's over there as well. So now we have matching PCs and matching Razer setups, and we're adorable. It's I like to piecemeal art together. That's what and that's why my dinosaur stuff is so popular. It's taking product photography and photographing toys to photographing landscapes and streets and city photography and mashing them together. That's what I'm like. My Photoshop skills are specialized for, I guess. But yeah, 1960s, 2001: Space Odyssey, easy. That was not a hard one at all. It was a bit hard because there was a few other good space movies that came out that decade, but none of them could ever beat over 2001: Space Odyssey. And these are the ones that getting into it's harder to find movies these years because it's hard to pick one. So these ones were hard. This one was easy. This one was easy. These two were hard because these three were hard because it was kind of hard to find a good movie that came out that year. And now these ones are hard because there's too many good movies that came out those years. So in the 1970s, let's see if I can pull up. Let's get a good list. Yeah, Planet of the Apes came out. Oh, and there is one thing that I tried to avidly avoid here, which actually there was two things, but then when I saw one of them, I had to put it in. I wanted to avoid Star Wars and Star Trek completely because they're so obviously they are like the pinnacle space movies. So I don't need to put them in here because people already know about them. But I decided to put in Wrath of Khan because it was so good. Wrath of Khan is so good. But yeah, 70s was Planet of the Apes, right? What else? Yeah, the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek Motion Picture. That came out this year, or this decade. So it was kind of hard, but, Alien is too... When I saw Alien, it was like that, when it comes to Planet of the Apes or Alien, a lot more people recognize Alien. 80s was hard. Again, original Tron came out that year. It wasn't really a safe movie, but it's more sci-fi. Spaceballs was 1980s, good movie, but I would consider that more of a comedy and more of a what am I trying to say? It's a movie kind of making fun of other movies because it's obviously poking fun at Star Wars. But then, Wrath of Khan. It wasn't hard. And like Blade Runner came out that year, but Blade Runner isn't as much a space movie as it is, the start of the cyberpunk series, or the cyberpunk genre. So I decided to go with Wrath of Khan instead. Let's see what here is in the 90s. Yeah, 90s. You got Men in Black. Obviously Star Wars. You have the Starship Troopers. Maybe Starship Troopers might have been better. I think maybe Starship Troopers might have been a bit better. But at the same time, Starship Troopers or Independence Day. Jeff Goldblum. Oh, great movie. In the 2000s was a bit more difficult, but at the same time, how much hype and how worldwide Avatar is known as and how much money it made. And only recently beaten out by Avengers Endgame. From the top spot of highest grossing movie of all time. It kind of had to be that one, I guess. So yeah, that was this one. What else? Yeah, this one is I did a little Destiny one. I talked about this earlier as well. One moment. Sorry, I haven't bitten a snack. This one is a little catalog project I had to do. So I made a quick catalog for Destiny hand cannons because they're my favorite weapon in Destiny, and I love Destiny. So decided to do this. Made a quick layout. I didn't want to do just 6 boxes, so I decided to re-angle one into 5. So yeah, I made up these little blurbs. Well, technically they're correct. Like they're correct to the story of each hand cannon and the background to the gun, but just quickly doing up a little kind of expose, I guess, on each one. Yeah. And this I talked a fair bit about. This was a book I did. I talked about how Gallery Books and Matt Forbeck are actually Matt Forbeck is actually a writer for 343, and Gallery Books is the actual publisher for 343. So I did research on it. I actually took inspiration from a book that is in the other room. Yes, it's in my bedroom. I think it's on my bedside table. It is what is it called? New Blood. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I based it off of the New Blood cover, which is that's the back cover and that's the front cover. So yeah, written by Matt Forbeck. So I kind of based it off that and redid it in a new kind of way. I think those are that's all the page layout stuff I have. Landscape photography. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but there's much more to say. This is the most of these were taken at Fort Amherst at different directions. One is left, one is right, and one is down. Really, this one was the left. This is of Signal Hill. So if you're standing at Fort Amherst, look back towards the Narrows, you can see Cabot Tower and Signal Hill. This is the right. So if you look off to the right, you can see Cape Spear, which is over here, but it's a bit foggy that day. I'm pretty sure this is also the day I took. I'll show you this photo, because this is out at Cape Spear, and I talked about in my first video I made that I had to replace the sky because it was a really, really cloudy day. It was super foggy, and the fact that I got it to clear off for just a second to take this picture was a miracle. But yeah, the sky was it was basically just a white sheet. A white gray sheet. So I didn't think it looked really well, especially for taking up most of the photo. So I replaced it and put this nice blue sky that I took a picture of like a week before. But you can see, but it was weird because it was a really nice day that day because I took this on the same day as I took like this photo. No, not this one. This photo, which has a really nice sky. You can't really see it much well, but this one as well. Nice, beautiful sky. But for some reason, Cape Spear just had this one little cloud, this fog cloud sitting on top of it. So you can see in this photo, there's that cloud of fog that was just sitting on top of it. Well, the nice blue sky is kind of up here as you get farther out, and the sky there as well. This was an iceberg I took a picture of out in Conception Bay. So that was a fun little thing that I did as well. It was I went on the boat with my family and just decided to bring my camera along because we were going to go see an iceberg. And I was going to take pictures of the iceberg, which obviously this is, but I think the sky takes the cake here, really. Seeing the sky like that, it's really something else. And this one is the down. I said there's a left, there's a right, and there's a down. So this is down the cliff of Fort Amherst. I love the color difference here. And the surprising part is I don't think I did anything in terms of color correction to this. Because because this was just so beautifully colored already, right? You see the nice deep blues and greens of the sea, and then these brown red rocks. I love it. I think this one's one of my favorite pictures that I took, and I really didn't change much about it. Illustrations I went through pretty quick. I think I probably went into too much explanation the first time about them, so I'm kind of glad I got to redo them. This was a texturing exercise I did at George Brown, and it was a texturing and shading exercise. So that's why I chose a lizard, because I love the scale texture and I love dinosaurs. It was kind of cool to be able to draw the scales. Little did I know I'd have to draw them twice, because I had to do one where it was split up into 3 pieces. So the first piece was the line art, the second piece was the scales, and the third piece was the shadow, the shading. And we had to do them on a certain piece of paper that was really thin so that we could stack them together, put them in a light box, and see what the final product would look like once done all together. And be able to hold them out separately. And then we redid it all on one page and kind of took it from there and kind of like finished it off on one page. This is one that definitely some people in here will recognize. This was one of my earliest ever vector works, and it's one that I think turned out pretty well. The I really liked how this turned out. I did a thing that I didn't know you could do until I did it, and I turned out really well, which was when fading gradient or when doing gradients on different pieces, you can actually have them fade away by opacity as well. It's not just to different colors. So obviously, yes, you can have something fade from black to white, but for example, here it's fading from black to purple, but also fading from 100% to, I think it was like 75% opacity. So not only as it did it go from black to purple, went from black to purple, and also from dark to from translucent to kind of opaque. Sorry, I get my translucence transparency mixed up. So yeah, that was a really fun little exercise I did, whereas everything else is just 100% solid. And then a little glow on the arrow, just to add a little extra pizzazz to it, but also had fun with the gradients on the eyes. The eye gradients were really fun to do. The eye gradients were really fun to do because they're obviously super extra. But I think I like it. This one is my big work, hence why it's on the cover of my illustration. I had to do two of these. I had to do a smaller one and a bigger one. So this is the bigger one. This is the one that took 2 months to do, of basically not nonstop work, but I mean, like, I went to my classes, woke up, went to my classes, came home, played video games for a bit, and then just worked on this. And a lot of times I'd just sit down, watch videos, and just stipple away. And stippling takes so long, but is definitely a technique I like to do. And it's time consuming, but it is so nice. And if with results like this, right? Like, how could I bash it? So I had to. It was a lot. It was a big. I took the image from. I looked up a 3D model of a T-Rex, and angled it the way I wanted it to, and posed it into a little pose, and then I used that pose, and I changed the lighting around on it because there's a website where you could do that. So I angled the model the way I wanted it to. I posed it the way I wanted it to with its roaring mouth open, and I added the light the way I wanted to, because I didn't want too much bright, because then I wouldn't be able to, show any shadow, and I'd show any texture. So I angled the lighting just so like I get nice on his back and nice on the top of his face. It's probably too bright here, but at the same time it still translates well, because I get a lot of nice texture, and you can see the larger scales down here, and the larger there's scoots, I think. Yes, scoots. Look at me. I'm so knowledgeable of terminology. Yeah, the scoots on his feet, the large scales that go kind of run down the toes, which scientists are now thinking dinosaurs probably didn't have. But this is a Jurassic Park T-Rex, so it doesn't even have feathers. The larger scales on his knees, and you can see, it's it took a long time to do this, but it was ultimately worth it in the end. And if I ever had to do this again, I would definitely. I really liked the way this turned out, and if ever somebody commissioned me for a piece like this, I think I'd do it again, because it was nice, but it was time consuming. It took me about 2 months of constant work after school. And this was I went into a little explanation of, I did this with spray paint, with stencils and stuff, and in doing the red on the eye, I kind of screwed up and accidentally misted this red, and then realized that it actually looks better like that. So I went a little more ham, and that's why it kind of looks misty red over here and more black and white over here, because you get that kind of cool color to black and white transition. And then I went through the different dragon cards here that I did worked on the little geometric shapes of the dice. I play a bit of D&D, so I had fun making the little dice, and now I have those assets if I ever want to use them for anything else, so I can just pull them straight from these little Valentine's Day cards I made, and I can just, pop them onto whatever I want. Product photography. There's some good stuff in here. This was one of my favorites. This is definitely one of my most popular ones. I actually got this in a high quality print somewhere. It was for a project we had to do some big prints. This was one of the ones I did to show my marketing skills, and I just thought it was fun. It's definitely eye catching, which is why I like to use it. Couple things about it that are a little sneaky that I did. This bottle here is actually filled with water, but I had to. So Mountain Dew is actually a more neon green than the bottle is. So I actually had to go in afterwards and turn up the yellow. I had to just select the area of the bottle with the liquid in it and turn up the yellows on it to give it that neon-y Mountain Dew look, when in actuality it's just water in there. I should have another thing I should have done that I wanted to do but never got the chance to was the fact that this was water, not Mountain Dew, because this was a bottle I had already drank from. The seal was broken on the top of the bottle, so I kind of wanted a bottle without the seal broken on it. I turned up the saturation a little bit on the crust of the bread as well. I think I just did the whole bread, but it didn't really change much of the white of the bread. But the crust became a lot more orangey. Yeah, I drew all this stuff, Josh. I did. I took the Mountain Dew sandwich logo, tossed it into Illustrator, and quickly did the sandwiches. And it's here and it's real in the same color scheme. This is actually, I like this one better than the previous. I like this one. This one is good, and once again, like I said, it's very eye catching. But this is my favorite one out of these. I just like the colors. I like the matching color Lego bricks to the little cans. Sorry. And I talked about it in the previous video that this was kind of thrown together because I didn't have anything to shoot that day. So I pulled some Peace Tea cans that were lying around the classroom, because Ray can tell you that our class really liked Peace Teas, and we used to leave our cans everywhere. And we had quite a collection growing both in the classroom and in the photo studio. And yeah, and there just happened to be a big tub of Legos, so I quickly tossed all the Legos around, built a little, I keep wanting to say orange because it is orange, but it's a peach, and a quick little lemon, and a little raspberry. But this raspberry is actually, I'm not sure if I actually said in the last video, this raspberry is actually like a bright purple, and I had to change it afterwards to match the red of the raspberries in the Peace Tea, because there was none of these circle blocks which I wanted to use for the raspberry. There was none of those actually in the container, so I had to that I was using. So I had to just make it out of it was more like bluey purple, like it was like actually purple, and then just change it to red in post. So it ended up looking more like grapes than raspberries, but afterwards it figured itself out. This one's not very much to talk about. This is just a shot I did. I was downtown with DJ and Jack. DJ being Derek John, that's why it says call Derek, because he's in the photo, so I decided to use his namesake because because all the Newfoundland tourism ads all have a call X sort of directory for it because they want to know which advertisements are actually worth it and which ones aren't. So it was a little, yeah, it's just a little funny hint. And that's actually the NL Tourism ad. Took the Newfoundland Labrador logo, slapped it on. Pulled the saturation up quite a bit. As you can tell, this black is very blue, but and all the blacks are very blue because I cranked the saturation. But it's nice. I like it. This one was fun. This one was another one that I had a project due and I forgot to take some photos for it. So I quickly ran to the dollar store, grabbed some Band-Aids because I needed Band-Aids anyway because I work with 3D prints a lot. So I cut myself while pulling off the while trying to cut off the supports. So I nicked myself a lot. So I needed Band-Aids anyway. So I was like, I'll make an advertisement out of it. And so my friend's hand, he has some cuts on his hand, but the Band-Aids aren't on the actual cuts on his hand. I thought that was kind of funny. So that's what I did for that. I also didn't want to cover them up. It was a funny thing, but also it was something intentional because I wanted to show because they were already healing a lot. So it's like, if you use these Band-Aids, your wounds will heal well. So this are like healing wounds, I guess, as well. I don't know. It's a intentional, unintentional sort of thing, but it worked out well. Yeah. Portrait photography. We already went through these, but I'll quickly go through them again. This one was a fun one I did of my friend Reed back at George Brown. This was me playing with lighting and different gels, and I love playing with gels, and it's a shame that I didn't get to do much more work at Kona with gels because it was hard to use the flash lights with gels, while these ones were fill lights. So that was a lot of fun to do. And once again at George Brown, working with gels, working with red and pinks and stuff. This one I was working with a projector. This one was at CNA. I was working with a projector, and I really like how this projector one turned out. This one is my friend Mousse from George Brown. This one wasn't working with gels, but I was just doing some portrait stuff, and I think he uses this photo for like all of his. I think this is one of his main headshots that he uses for his design work. So whenever he's handing in resumes and stuff, and funnily enough, is I'm using this photo, and this is a photo that he took of me. So I think it was on the same day. Yeah, so we were just having fun shooting portraits. Another one of Reed. Same day as the first one, but this one I liked using the cool colors a bit more, and it brought out his really blue eyes because he has like very, very blue eyes. So it brought that out a lot, and I really like that. You can still see that the orange light is there. You can see that there's a bit of warm light under here, a bit of orange, kind of there, and obviously this big orange thing here. You see a little bit of it there, and kind of on the bottom side of that armor piece, but obviously the big orange spot right there tells you that it's still on, but I wanted to use more of the blue because up here, it was a lot orange. So I kind of, whereas you get that blue key light, key light. Whereas the orange was filling most of it. So I kind of wanted to do the opposite here. And I think it turned out well. The orange is a lot more subtle, but it still works. This is another one that I was working with colors. This one was red and blue. So like a red fill light, blue key light. It's one of Alana's favorite pictures of her, so I thought I'd toss it in. And this was another one I did of Chelsea at Kona. This one was just working with the black background. This one I turned like the grain up to max, and it got that cool bumpy texture on the background. I really liked it. And you can see like the crease in the background. I think I like it. It turned out really well. I'm going to quickly go through the videography stuff. I want to toss this on, specifically this one. So there's no sound to this one, even though I was planning on putting on sound later. Like I said, there was a lot more work I wanted to do to this. Another thing I wanted to do was not have the changes so abrupt. And so like I kind of want to have it just like slowly moving. But I didn't know how to do that at the time. I do now, so I can go back and change that. Another thing I wanted to do was to add the rain sound effects and the roar as he comes into view. I want the roar to happen, and then I wanted to get some stock footage of jets flying overhead. 2 jets, kind of just because in the movie they kind of fly overhead a couple times. So, but I also want to get the rain noise because I put the rain texture a couple times in this. I know it's not smart to point out your mistakes in a lot of these photos or a lot of these projects, but one thing that my eye is drawn to at least all the time is, you have these. This was one picture of a cityscape that had the buildings shift, that I had to cut out, layer the buildings properly so that they'd shift around each other properly. And here you can see that it didn't really, the Photoshop fill didn't really work very well. So you kind of get this warped building side that kind of looks like it's a picture of a building warped onto a building. I just thought it was funny. Everything else I think turned out fine, but I just think that one little part there that's now being obscured by the building, that's why it didn't matter too much. I thought it was funny. Also, the sky in this picture was, I think, a pretty clear sky, so I had to replace the sky, I had to cut out the sky completely as well and replace it with just clouds because I wanted it to be raining. The Z also is cut out, and then I had just a black that fades to 0 as it pans in. So I cut out the Z so that it would do that and come into frame. This was a stop motion. Nothing really cool here. It kind of looks better, a bit slower, but this was a work on Premiere, and I'm not as good with Premiere as I am with After Effects. I know Premiere's a lot easier to use for a lot of people, but I think just doing it in After Effects for me is just a lot simpler, just to get it done in After Effects. But this was specifically Premiere, so that little part there is I screwed up, and then my hand comes into frame, does a thumbs down, and then I fix it. So it's really quick because, like I said, there's my hand coming into frame. There we go. It was fun. It was a fun little thing to do. Took me a class to do. It was great. This was a video that I had to do. Well, all we had to do was like a little 15-second motion thing. And instead of doing 15 seconds, I did 2 minutes and 20 seconds of a video. It's not very good. There's a lot of background noise and a lot of mistakes here and there. It was some pretty good cinematography. Alana helped me with this because this was during the COVID crisis, so she was the only person who was allowed to help me with this because I had to keep social distancing with everybody else. And she did a really good job. She did a great job following orders and also sliding in her own artistic expertise. And she also was the stand-in for the sniper at the end. So we'll quickly let this play out. If you do notice some issues with it, trust me, I know them as well. But this was just something I kind of quickly put together for an end-of-year project that ended up getting a really good mark. So thank you, Craig. And let's let it play out. Also, I'm a terrible actor. Please do not judge. Yeah, I found the phone we tracked. He was here. He's not here anymore, though. I'm going to search the area. He's here. I'm engaging. Ta-da! That was it. There's definitely a few problems here and there, a lot of major issues, but I think overall it turned out pretty well. Some of the things I noticed that I could change, obviously, first of all, my acting ability. Second of all, in this shot here, you can see the tripod. And in the next shot, I think you can also see the tripod. Oh no, it was in the previous shot. Yes, here. You can see the tripod twice. So there is the tripod from the first shot. I do like that transition, though. That was smooth. And there's the tripod again. Terrible acting, terrible acting, terrible acting. This is my favorite shot of the whole thing, was this one. Liked that. That was my favorite shot. This scene was a specific shot that I wanted that did not translate well. So I wanted me to walk out, look left, look right, and see a lens flare from a scope. But because the camera doesn't stay on it for that long, which was my fault because I told Alana to follow my head, and so I looked over for a second and looked back, and so she followed my head perfectly, but because the camera doesn't stop, you don't really see that there's a lens flare there. It's there, but it's so subtle. Right there. See if you can see it happen. It happens at the tree where the sniper is later on. Right there. Keep an eye on. Yeah, you can see it. There it is. Right there. So that's why my character looks back, because I saw the lens flare of the scope. There also is the gunshot noise I used for this is too loud, and you can't hear the bullet whiz. It's super quiet right after the bullet, but you can hear right after the gunshot. There it is.
He's here. I'm engaging.
Terrible acting, terrible acting. Bad sound effects, bad sound effects. I really like the ricochet against the wall. It's once again, it's hard to hear the ding with the gunshot going off, but you can see a little spark hit the wall. Alana's great acting there. The recoil was perfect, but took her a couple times to get that bolt all the way back, but she got it. Yeah, me running through terrible acting. Don't worry about it. My hat falling off, and then in the next shot I fixed it. Swearing, terrible acting. This I'm super proud of. This part is I can only zoom in so far. Oh, another thing that to notice, while the camera's moving here, the camera lens is dirty. Right there, you can see that speck of dirt right there, and there is a couple other smaller specks of dirt, but that one there is super key, and it's in all the time right there. There it is, still there. So yeah, it's on the entire lens the entire time. I should have cleaned off my lens, but I didn't. And so here, you can see it, and you can see that it moves because I can only zoom in so far, but I wanted to visually see that sniper there. So what I did was I added a fake zoom in afterwards, and I was like, let me just kind of guess, and then go and change how that zoom is from the guess. I'm like, where does the video clip start? Where does the zoom start? And then I'll make a fake zoom in between there, what I think it should look like, and then clearly it's going to be too fast or too slow, so I'm going to edit it from there. But it was bang on right away, and I'm just so proud of that. So let's see if you can... So this is the fake zoom. And that's the real zoom. It's so impossible to tell that cut, and I'm so proud of it. You can see when it stops because that dot will stop moving. And also you can hear the drawing of the lens back because I should have re-recorded all the audio, but I didn't. So this is... Oh, invisible, seamless transition. Bad sound effects. Good visual effects. Apparently this guy's super confident.
Gotcha.
I say this guy, he's me. Gotcha. Gets shot in the back of the head. You can't tell, but the gun actually is a gas blowback gun, so it does blow back for a frame, but I think the shutter didn't connect to the slide going back so quickly.
Gotcha.
Gets shot. I'm terrible at blood effects. Need to practice. Another one of my favorite shots. I love this lighter. It's just one of my favorite lighters. I have it up here all the time. I don't smoke or anything, but I just like this really cool lighter that I have. So it's just a fun. Decided to use it as a prop because I don't do anything else with it. It just sits here and collects dust because I don't use it at all. So I was like, yeah, let's use it as a prop in a video. So yeah, she said, and then walks off. I was going to have this continue on a little bit, but Alana had an editing input, which is right after the sound cuts out, she falls, and she doesn't say anything, but you can hear the footsteps go from crunch, 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 because she trips up, and so I made that little quick fade out and fade to black, and in the fade out and fade to black, the little dot on the screen becomes so much more apparent, and I hate it, but yeah. That was a quick little video that I did. I had another one of that me and Jack did called The Crate. And then I turned it to a Red Bull ad because he drinks Red Bull in the video. And I'm trying to find it. I can't find it right now, but that's why it's not here. But I'm gonna put it up. So like I said, keep checking back on my profile. This is where I'll be posting all my work from now on. This and all my dinosaur stuff will be going to my Fossil Focus page. But that seems to be an hour for me. If you'd like to see more in-depth talking about the dinosaur stuff, go check out my first video. That's where I go really in-depth about my dinosaur and my portrait stuff. Check out my last video that I did earlier today, which was only 15 minutes long, about quickly running through these. And then today's, I rewent over all of that stuff. Quickly went over these as well. And so now you've seen my whole profile, and you guys know a little bit more into the process that I go through of my design work. I hope y'all enjoyed, and like I said, if you have any questions, come to my Instagram, message me there. That's probably my best way to contact me. Is through my Instagram at Fossil Focus, Fossil_Focus, or just search up Fossil Focus, and I'm the only really one. Or you can send me an email, or I think my phone number is somewhere. Maybe just my email. Probably just my email, which is michael.collis709@gmail.com. Check my email. I get notifications on my phone, but I check it every hour or so now. So yeah, by all means, reach out, have any questions, and thank you all for joining me for this kind of shoehorned in little episode, but of Michael Collis' design work. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Have a good one.